I'm so excited to be doing some trash to treasure farmhouse decor ideas for you. Hi there, my name is Sandra and you're watching The Schwowin's Nest. I found these cute little bookends at the thrift store and I believe I paid $6 for the pair. I'm going to take off the picket fence because I've got a different idea for these, but I will be using the picket fence later on. I just used a hammer to knock them off, and now I'm just going to clean up the edges with my scraper and a little bit of sandpaper before I start painting. These are going to get 2 to 3 coats of white chalk paint, and I just want them to be fully covered. I don't want any of the green to be poking through. I thought these were really cute because once you see this view here, they actually look like books. I found these corbels at the thrift store as well, and they were $1.99 each, still in the original packaging. I just misted the wood down a little bit with some water because I want to dilute the antiquing wax that I'm using. I want to bring out some of the wood grain, but I don't want a really dark color. I'm going to do this all over the wood except for the bottom portion and the back, the two places where I'm going to need to attach it back to the other part of the bookends. I set everything aside to make sure they fully dry for a good hour or so. And now I'm using some Gorilla Glue Clear Grip and some hot glue, and I'm going to glue the wood right back onto the bookend part. I'm also going to use a clamp just to hold the bottom part in place until the Gorilla Glue has a chance to set up. If you're wondering what kind of contraption I'm wearing on my hand, this is just a dollar store gardening glove. And the reason I'm wearing it is because the psoriasis on my hand is getting really bad due to the cold weather. And it's just really red and irritated. And I didn't think you would want to see that. So I've got this cute flowery little glove instead. That's all I did with these bookends. And I think they turned out really beautiful. If you are new to my channel, welcome. I'm so glad you decided to click on my video. If you like what you see so far and you haven't already, I'd love it if you could hit that red button. This is a clock that I had at my cottage. It no longer works. I don't know what's wrong with it, but I decided to just take it all apart and make something new from it. When I started pulling off the paper, the numbers just kind of popped out and they have a couple of little pegs in the back. So I'm going to save those numbers because you never know when I might need them again. I've laid the clock aside for now, and in my stash, I had this 8.5 inch sort of MDF wood round. They come in a pack of 5 at my local Dollarama store, and it's the perfect size for inside the clock. I'm going to cover it with this wood look scrapbook paper just by tracing the circle, cutting it out, and using a glue stick to put it on. I'm using hot glue to glue the MDF right into where the clock face was, and I made sure to line up the screws so I knew where the top of the sign was, simply based on how it hangs using that nautical rope. While I was working with the inside and the wood, I was trying to think if I was going to be painting the outside white or leaving it the brown. Since it's just plastic, I decided to go ahead and give it a couple of coats of white chalk paint. I think that's just going to make the wood part of this sign pop. If you've been following me for a while, you may remember that I have a laser machine that can cut out wood pieces, and I'm so excited because that's what I'm using to start my Etsy shop. So what I did was design Welcome to Our Home, and I cut it out using 3mm basswood. Now this whole set will be available on my Etsy shop, and it will be available in 2 different sizes, a smaller one and then a larger one like this. I'm going to paint all of the letters black. Hot glue will do the job putting these letters and words right onto the paper. I am putting it a little bit higher up on the sign because I have an idea to do something down at the bottom. To me, lavender says farmhouse through and through, so I've decided to take some of these lavender sprigs and glue them down at the bottom. And then I'll just add a little bit more greenery and some in the middle so it has sort of a little bit of an arc shape to it. I'm just going to follow the lines of the clock itself. Off camera, I just put everything back together and this is what it looks like so far. What I'm doing now is just taking some 80 grit sandpaper and just going around the outside edge just to pull off some of that chalk paint. I'm going to also follow the lines on the inside just to give it a distressed look, which is something that I love. If you don't like distressing, you don't have to do it. Lastly, it's just time to put the nautical rope back on and it just goes in with a little screw and a nut and I'll take care of that and then this project is done. I love how it turned out and I hope you like it too. In this project, I'm using 2 of the IOD stamps. I have ink. This is just dollar store ink and it works really well. What I'm doing is taking the stamps and I'm going to stamp them onto some tissue paper because I want to put them inside these 2 ramekins that you can see up at the top of the screen. These I have had in my stash for a really long time. I actually had them in my kitchen for the longest time. Then I decided I was going to give them away because I didn't use them. And then I thought, you know what? I think I can probably figure something out to make them look really pretty as decor. So this is how I'm starting out with these. I'm going to take this tissue paper and then simply Mod Podge it into the center of the ramekin. Now you have all seen me use tissue paper prints. This is the same effect. I'm going to use Mod Podge inside of the ramekin and then put the tissue paper print right inside, being really careful not to brush the Mod Podge on top. I'm just going to be dabbing it. But as I do that, I'm going to be sharing something exciting with you. I have decided to give away 2 of the individual stamps that are part of the crockery set from the IOD set. What I found is that there were so many different stamps, but a lot of them said the same thing. So I think there's about 4 or 5 stamps that say marmalade. So these are the 2 that I'm going to give away in this video today. What I need you to do is go down to the comment section, put in a comment and let me know which of the stamps you want. You're going to write in Dijon for the Grey Poupon Dijon stamp, which is the one at the top, or you're going to write marmalade, which is the one on the bottom. I'll be selecting 2 winners and this video is going out on Friday, so you'll have the weekend to take a look at my video. And then by Tuesday of next week, I'll be announcing the winners on my community tab. Okay, so let me explain what I'm doing here. I'm using my Mod Podge, but I'm not brushing over the stamp because that's going to make the ink run. So probably what I would have done ahead of time possibly is give it a little bit of spray with some sealer, but I wasn't sure how the tissue paper would take that. So I'm going to test that at some point and let you guys know. So what I'm doing is just dabbing up and down with my brush very lightly just to push out all of the bubbles and wrinkles. I'm going to add a little bit of decoration to these ramekins and I'm going to just use my stain again the same way that I did the bookend pieces, spray it with a little bit of water and then add some of the stain onto it just to give it a little bit of a lighter color. The other one is a bird cutout that I picked up at my local Dollarama store. I've had it in my stash for a while and that's already that color, so I don't have to do anything with it. I'm going to wrap some of this Dollar Tree twine around a couple of times, but I tied it first in just a single knot and added a little bit of hot glue just to keep it in place. I'll wrap it around and tie it off and then trim off the ends. I'll add a little shoestring bow later. Then I'm going to be adding some of this lavender. I was so excited the other day. I was at my local Walmart, and of course, I live in Canada, so our Walmart craft and floral department is very different from what you have in the United States. Anyway, I found the lavender from the Walmart and it was $1.24. I was so excited. It's so pretty. I think I grabbed like 30 or 35 of them. I was a lavender piggy, but I don't care. I have it and I'm so excited because I've never ever seen it before. So I had to snatch it all up. I'm going to do something similar with the other ramekin, except this time I'm going to use this little dragonfly rubber stamp and stamp two of the images right onto the little wooden tag, and then I'll embellish with the lavender again. I glued on some sawtooth hangers so they could be hung, but they could also just be laid down on a table. I think they turned out beautiful. Let me know what you think. So this project is going to use the leftover picket fence pieces from the first project, bookends. I'm going to go ahead and just mark off where I want to cut one of the pieces. I want them to be a little bit shorter than the other, basically sort of in half. I was going to use my saw, but then thought better of it because these are really difficult to cut. And I grabbed my Hoto rotary tool with the really fun circular saw little blade. These blades are so adorable, but they work amazing. I have a link for this rotary tool down in my description box, but there's also other rotary tools that you can use. You can also use the Dremel. Make sure you don't leave your thumb as close to the blade as I did. Just looking at it now as I'm editing, I wasn't very careful, but it all worked out fine. I did not hurt myself. Once I got halfway through, I just flipped it over and was able to cut through the rest of this little picket fence really easily. I'm going to create a little picket fence box. I needed a bottom for it, so I just took one of these old sign pieces from the Dollar Tree and cut out the length and width that I needed. I'm using some of these leftover little picket fences as my side supports. So I'm going to glue on the two side supports, then glue the tall piece at the back and the short piece at the front. Then I'll just go ahead and add another support on the side for each of the sides. Once I was finished assembling everything, I gave the little picket fence box a couple of coats of white chalk paint. You'll notice also that I decided to leave the cross pieces facing forwards. I just thought that added a little bit to the character of the piece. Now I'm going to go ahead and start adding some of my florals in here. I'm going to keep it fairly neutral, and I want to just use some of my solo wood flowers and some little bits of greenery. In the summer, I stocked up on these green pool noodles. I cut this one in half and just hot glued it down into the bottom. Now I'm going to take some Spanish moss and just camouflage that, pushing it in around the sides and front and back of the little box. That's just going to help to actually give it a little bit more character as well because some of that Spanish moss is going to stick out from in between the slats. Solo wood flowers do not come with stems. That's why I keep all of the extra wired stem pieces when I'm using my greenery. If I trim something off, I always keep those little stems because I know I'm going to use them in the future. What I like to do is just very gently push it down into the center of the bottom of the solo wood flower and then add a little bit of hot glue to hold it in place. And this seems to work really well. I've done it for all of my other arrangements and it has never failed me yet. If you don't have any extra little greenery stems, you could also use some thin bamboo skewers from the Dollar Tree. When I'm doing flower arrangements, I like to have varying heights, different types of flowers, and I don't really have a pattern that I do. I just kind of go with the flow, see how things are turning out, and once I had the flowers and greenery all set the way I wanted them, I decided to add a little wooden tag and a little wooden flower cutout. And I'm just using some hot glue with some twine to glue it in place. And I think this little project turned out absolutely adorable. I hope you love it too. Before I sign off, I want to give you a sneak peek into some of the spring items that are going to be on my shop soon. I've got some adorable little farmhouse critters. I've got a rubber boot set with some tulips and birds and greenery and some sweet little bunny decor pieces. So make sure you head down to my description box, click on the link to my Etsy shop. As I mentioned, these spring items aren't available yet, but they will be soon. Thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. I truly appreciate it. If you haven't already, I'd love it if you could hit that subscribe button. The black arrow will show you exactly where to click. Hit the like button and that notification bell so you don't miss out on anything else I have to share. Bye for now.